Okay, picking up on part two of just kind of some beautiful things the Lord did while I was in Dallas. So I ended up going to cfni for 2 years and don't owe a dime of debt. It's all paid off. It was all paid before I finished. And I love sharing the story of when I transitioned from CFNI to do 1 year of USM, Upper Room School of Ministry, because I wasn't planning on it. So the first year that USM had a school, it was 2020, and I wanted to go, but I felt like the Lord said, no, you're at CFNI. And so then that following year in 2021, I was ending my second year at CFNI and trying to decide what major I wanted to do, because in the third year you get to pick your major at CFNI, and I just couldn't land on one. There was just nothing that was right. And I remember I was still working at that same call center I was at the whole time I had lived there, and I had a dream. This was March 2021. I had a dream that I was at my job, but I look at the clock and I was there a little later than my time that I would normally get off. And so in the dream, I go and tell my supervisor, like, hey, I'm so sorry. I stayed past my time. What would you like me to do? And the supervisor, he wasn't my real supervisor. It was one of the worship leaders at Upper Room. And he said, no, it's okay, but you do need to go. And then I wake up from the dream and I knew immediately that it was the Lord telling me I needed to quit my job, and it was for the purpose of me being at Upper Room more. And so I thought, like, oh, I just need to spend more time at the prayer room, and the Lord has a different job for me elsewhere. And so in real life, I told my supervisor the dream and what I thought, and she agreed. She said she blessed me, she released me to go whenever I was ready. So I worked 1 more week after that, and then I was done. So for about a month, I was unemployed. And I'm telling you, I had more money in my bank account in that month of being unemployed than my whole time working at that call center. And I think it's just how the Lord does finances. It's just kingdom math that it just doesn't make sense to our natural minds, but He's faithful to provide however He wants. And within that month, I had about 4 dreams about working at this particular coffee shop. And so I shared the dreams with the manager at the coffee shop and his wife, and let him know, like, hey, here's where I'm at, and so they offer me a job, and they ended up also being small group leaders of mine. And as I was processing just my transition from the call center, and just not really sure what to do, because when I got hired at that call center, and then I started going to CFNI, I thought I would work there as long as I was a student, because it just made sense. And so for me to not do or to not work at that job meant, oh, I'm not going to be doing third year. And so I was processing all of this with them, and the guy, he mentioned, well, what if you did USM? And because I had laid it down because I wanted to do it the year previous, but I felt like the Lord said no. It felt like a gift that the Lord was giving to me to actually get to do USM. And so I went on the journey of just applying, and again, it was like a $50 or $40 application fee, and I felt like the Lord said, again, watch what I'll do if you just apply. And so I did, started the application. This is April 2021, and I remember it's a long application, so I didn't finish it in one sitting. And so I started it, and then, you go about your day to day. And I remember another day I felt really restless and just unsettled, and I didn't know why. And I felt like the Lord told me, like, I needed to finish the application for USM. And as soon as I started, to work on it again, I felt the peace of God flood, and just this feeling of, like, this is right. This is what the Lord's asking me to do. And so I finished it, got accepted, and you have to have a deposit. I think it's $500 when I was a student to kind of reserve your spot, and then you have the rest of the summer to raise the tuition. And so I got more than enough for the deposit within like 2 days of me posting on social media. And then throughout the summer, I remember working at the coffee shop that I ended up having dreams about. And most of my donations to my school for USM were anonymous. And the average donation was $600. And I think I know maybe 3 people who gave, but everyone else was anonymous. And it was just this beautiful, like, the Lord genuinely giving me a gift. Because when you get a gift, you don't pay for it. Like, you just receive it. And that's what USM was to me. And they ask that you pay your tuition before the first day of class. And the Friday before the Monday that we started, I had about $1,700 left to pay. And I remember had a young adult service that night, and as we were going into the young adult service, I get this notification on my phone that someone had just paid it off, and it was another anonymous donation. They paid the full remainder of 1,700 something. And so it was so sweet that even before classes started, the Lord was like, this is a gift. I'm paying for this, I'm providing for this, and didn't have to think about tuition for the rest of my time there as a student. And it was incredible. I could say so much about it, but just specifically in his provision and his leadership, that one, it's really clear God is not the God of chaos or confusion, but he's very clear. He speaks through the word of God. For me, he speaks a lot through dreams. He speaks through authority. He speaks through, because both of those times my boss and other leaders in my life, and of course my parents, just whoever's a trusted, safe authority that is submitted to the Lord and the word of God, he uses them to speak to you. And it's just an incredible journey of how he got me and just sustained me all throughout. I remember I had to make a pretty abrupt move about halfway through, where I wasn't expecting to move, but he provided a place from where I was to where I went, and it ended up being cheaper rent, just a better situation in every way. And now I have one of my dearest friends because I got to live, in that home with her. And so just how amazing how the Lord cares about all the details, every big thing and every little thing. He's in all of it, and he's so faithful to provide and care for us. He's a good shepherd, and it says in Psalm 23 verse 1 that the Lord is our shepherd and we shall not want. And some translations said we have no lack. So just want to encourage you with my story, that he's a faithful leader.